I've just discovered that Bruce Lee had a vegetarian brother, Broco Lee. Today, I'm going to recap a 2023 action thriller film called The Wrath of Becky. The film starts with a girl named Becky. She's an intensely angry and aggressive teenager with deep-rooted issues. Having faced much adversity in her life, the primary source of her pain is the murder of her father by a man named Dominic years prior, leaving her an orphan. Repeatedly, Becky finds herself in different foster homes. Though she resides in comfortable households with all the necessary amenities and care, she hides her true feelings. Outwardly, she puts on a facade of happiness and kindness, ensuring no one suspects her true feelings. In reality, Becky harbors deep resentment for everyone and loathes the constraints of the foster care system. Over the years, she's cunningly managed to slip away from 3 separate foster families. Becky has a penchant for the woods, finding solace there. She's incredibly resourceful, honing her physical abilities and learning the art of weaponry. She's even laid out traps around her hideout, ever vigilant after the trauma of her father's demise. For the past year, Becky has been living with an elderly woman named Elena. The bond between them is rooted in their strikingly similar dispositions. Both have a shared disdain for people and the societal norms that bind them. This shared animosity makes them compatible, allowing them to live in peace, away from prying eyes and societal expectations. While Becky holds deep-seated contempt for most, she needs to earn her keep. She opts for a job as a waitress in a restaurant, frequently interacting with bothersome customers. One particular day, an old man's outlandish request, wanting his toast made on teak wood, sourced from a particular region in central Java, leaves Becky seething. She momentarily envisions lashing out at him, though it remains a mere thought. Yet, she often ponders on the possibility of acting on such violent impulses if there weren't legal consequences. Upon returning home, Becky and Elena engage in nightly conversations, delving into various topics. One particular discussion revolves around an event 2 years ago when Becky, in an intense defensive act, ended up causing the deaths of Dominic and his accomplices. Elena, learning of this, contemplates whether young Becky, who at 13 managed to overcome 4 hardened ex-convicts, might have psychopathic tendencies. In response to Elena's contemplation, Becky asserted that she simply acted out of necessity. Regardless of whether she might be a psychopath, her aggressive acts were motivated by a thirst for vengeance for her father's untimely death. Recently, a disturbing broadcast on the radio informed them of a local organization named the NM Group, an abbreviation for Noble Man. This group, associated with numerous violent acts and vandalism, was causing distress among residents. The police, unfortunately, were unable to secure sufficient evidence to apprehend any members. The subsequent day, in an unforeseen twist, 3 members of the NM Group, Anthony, DJ, and Seann, made an appearance at Becky's workplace for a meal. From the moment DJ entered, his demeanor was patronizing. He condescendingly labeled Becky, likening her to other women he derogatorily termed as cheap. He even audaciously suggested she might be inclined to accompany him to a hotel for a dalliance. Anthony was not far behind in his disdain. He coarsely ordered coffee and belittled Becky's profession. Such disdainful behavior reached a boiling point for Becky, prompting her to purposefully pour scalding coffee onto Anthony, resulting in a burn. Later, as Becky was en route home, DJ mockingly reminded Anthony of the incident, provoking him further. The prideful Anthony, easily incensed, made a snap decision to track down Becky to retaliate. That evening, Becky is seen resting, her eyes falling upon a peculiar lock emblem, an artifact connected to Dominic and his associates from the earlier film. Its significance still eluded her. However, tranquility was short-lived. The sound of an intruder startled Becky. Investigating the disturbance, she was swiftly ambushed by Anthony and his cohorts. In the ensuing chaos, DJ savagely injured her beloved dog Diego with a baseball bat. Seann, reluctant to engage, was coerced into participation under threat of expulsion from the NM Group. The situation took another twist when Elena, brandishing a rifle, intervened. She ordered EJ to disarm, but Anthony, in a menacing move, aimed his weapon at Elena. The scene culminated tragically, with Elena shot and Becky rendered unconscious by a violent blow. Upon regaining consciousness the following day, Becky discovered Diego's absence. It was evident that Anthony and his accomplices had malevolently abducted him. Subsequently, Becky discreetly interred Elena in the woodland adjacent to their residence, hoping to keep law enforcement at bay. Tragedy had repeatedly marred Becky's existence. The demise of her parents, and now the loss of Elena, her sole remaining kin, rekindled her simmering rage. She resolved to exact revenge on the trio responsible. In preparation, Becky gathered the requisite equipment and, in an oddly defiant gesture, even adorned her nails fashionably in anticipation of her confrontation with the culprits. Recollecting a reference to a certain Darryl by Anthony and his gang at the diner, Becky deduced there were but two individuals by that name in the town. The first Darryl she encountered was an elderly, ailing woman reliant on an oxygen tank. Discerning no connection, Becky opted to pursue the second Darryl, whose abode was situated lakeside. Coincidentally, as Becky approached, Anthony and his companions too had converged at Darryl's residence. Seann, still agitated from the prior evening's events, sought to discuss matters with Darryl. However, Anthony, brushing off his concerns, belittled Seann for overthinking. Dismissing the gravity of their actions, Anthony trivialized their deeds to Darryl. They then met the true Darryl, the figurehead of the NM group, who cohabited with his close associate, Twig. Pressed by Darryl regarding their whereabouts the previous night and their possession of the dog, Anthony concocted an alibi, claiming car trouble led them to the restaurant and that they had stumbled upon the injured canine, taking it in out of sheer compassion. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Becky had stealthily infiltrated Darryl's inner sanctum. As she scored for vital intel, Darryl and Seann inadvertently walked into the chamber for an urgent discussion. Seann, revealed as a novice in the NM group, was briefed by Darryl on the organization's ethos and objectives. During this exposition, Darryl disclosed a ledger bearing the identities of their influential benefactors. He further divulged a plot to orchestrate protests and upheavals aimed at a legislator, Hernandez, whose effigy stood in Darryl's quarters. Seann was taken aback upon realizing he had unwittingly affiliated himself with an extremist faction. He had initially hoped to merely engage in nonviolent protests to articulate his dissent against governmental policies. Nevertheless, Darryl issued a sinister warning, implying he would execute any defectors. Cornered, Seann felt compelled to adhere to Darryl's dictates. When Seann and Darryl vacated the chamber, Becky, who had secreted herself beneath the bed, emerged. She swiftly captured photographs of the plotted revolt at City Hall. Additionally, she pilfered a flash drive holding details of the organization's key financiers. After her covert exit from the premises, Becky made her way to Darryl's storage facility. Astonishingly, she uncovered an arsenal of potent weaponry, inclusive of explosives and protective gas masks, earmarked for the impending revolt at the municipal building. Concurrently, as Darryl and his group toasted their endeavors, an unexpected knock at the entrance disrupted them. Answering, Darryl discovered an active mobile phone, purportedly Becky's. This revelation sent Seann, DJ, and Anthony into a flurry of distress. While DJ and Anthony were inclined to obfuscate the facts, Seann championed transparency. Ultimately, Anthony admitted to the previous night's transgressions: the murder of an elderly woman and the abduction of Becky's canine. In an attempt to placate Darryl, Anthony assented to rendezvous with Becky to amicably return the dog. Yet, unbeknownst to him, Becky, concealed behind foliage, lured Anthony into the woods where he unsuspectingly plummeted into a pit she had excavated using heavy machinery. Although tempted to dispatch him swiftly with a bullet, Becky opted for a more sinister method, refraining from immediate execution. She fastened Anthony to a seat, gagged him, and rigged a contraption linking the firearm's trigger to Darryl's door handle. As Darryl accessed the door, the mechanism fired, ending Anthony's life instantly. Witnessing this horrific scene, a fragile-hearted Seann was consumed by fear, unwilling to pay the price for deeds he hadn't committed. He took the bold step to disassociate from the NM group. However, Darryl, in a startling act of treachery, eliminated Seann using only his physical strength, an act which deeply distressed DJ. Feeling ensnared, DJ felt resigned to fulfilling all of Darryl's stipulations. In the interim, Twig exited the dwelling, weapon in hand, surveying for any trace of Becky. Shortly thereafter, Darryl received a call directly from Becky, who declared possession of irrefutable proof of his malfactions, including the stolen flash drive chronicling their illicit consortiums. However, Becky's audacity incensed Darryl, prompting him to summon Twig. Unexpectedly, an arrow, loosed by Becky, found its mark in Twig. Despite the wound, Twig persevered. Darryl swiftly extricated the arrow. Without delay, Becky made her presence known, instigating a pursuit as she dashed toward the arsenal. Concurrently, Darryl instructed DJ to provide aid to Twig, but DJ opted for flight, abandoning Twig. Becky cunningly lured Twig into the depot. As the entrance sealed shut, she unleashed a smoke bomb, impairing Twig's respiratory functions. Brandishing a lawnmower, she pondered a cruel end for Twig. But thwarted by missing ignition keys, she resorted to wielding a blade, slaying Twig. In the midst of her act, she was incapacitated by a tranquilizer dart to her neck. Upon regaining consciousness, Becky found herself restrained. Darryl had confiscated her arsenal, pouches, blades, incendiary devices, and the significant Valknut key, an artifact of the Demetic clan. Astonishingly, the key revealed coordinates, a discovery made inadvertently by Darryl. Further jolting Becky was the sight of the elderly woman, reliant on an oxygen tank, whom she had encountered earlier. This matron was unveiled as Darryl's mother, the linchpin of the NM group. Darryl elucidated that the impending insurrection at City Hall was orchestrated by his mother, under directives from the clandestine patrons of their faction, whose identities were safeguarded on the pilfered flash drive. This predicament afforded Becky leverage, as Darryl was compelled to recover the drive prior to eliminating her. Initially, Becky resisted divulging the drive's whereabouts. However, when Darryl leveraged the life of her pet Diego, her resistance wavered. In a fortunate turn, when her restraints were momentarily loosened, Becky launched a counterattack, incapacitating Darryl with a noxious spray. Seizing this fleeting advantage, she dispatched Darryl's mother with a well-aimed blade. Darryl, in vengeful pursuit, trailed Becky into the wilderness. But Becky's ingenuity prevailed, ensnaring Darryl in a malevolent trap that spelled his doom. A day later, Becky found herself ensconced in a CID chamber, under the scrutiny of Agent Mary. Mary divulged that the flash drive cataloged nefarious operatives masquerading as government emissaries across the nation. Recognizing Becky's formidable prowess in neutralizing Darryl's extremist group, Mary extended an invitation, an offer to enlist Becky as the CIA's most youthful recruit in its annals. Mary elaborated that Becky's inaugural assignment entailed apprehending DJ, an affiliate of Darryl's contingent who had evaded capture. Additionally, unraveling the enigma associated with the key adorned with the Valkman emblem was imperative. Subsequent to this briefing, DJ was spotted engrossed in repairing his malfunctioning vehicle along a desolate avenue. Out of the blue, Becky materialized, driving a sleek vehicle clad in official CIA attire. To the astonishment of onlookers, she brandished a bazooka, incapacitating the unguarded DJ. The cinematic narrative culminated with Becky exuding a triumphant grin post-detonation of DJ's automobile. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.